What's going on, everyone? It's Griever back here, bringing you guys the latest behind-the-bar reviews for One Piece Chapter 913. We are finally officially caught up in a few more days. One Piece Chapter 914 will drop, but until then, if I get this video up before then I am 100% caught up with not only 7 Deadly Sins, but One Piece as well. So that's 2 series down, guys. I'm excited. That means I'm actually starting to catch up here. Now, this chapter, really good. Suru repays a favor. Good chapter. Wish it was a little longer, a little more stuff went on, but overall, I mean, it's basically a fight between Hawkins and Zoro and Luffy. Now, before we get into it panel by panel, page by page, I just want to say that at the end of my last double feature review, in chapter 911, 912, I posed the question, because I didn't know, how many of these voodoo doll things can Hawkins have? How many of these things is he able to produce? Can he have 1? Can he have 12? Can he have 100, 1,000? How many is he allowed to have? We get the answer sort of in this chapter, but when we get to that, there's still room for limitations and such, but it's definitely more than 1. That's the question I had. So at the beginning of this chapter, Hawkins basically poses the question to these two: do you know whose territory Wano is right now? And this is where Zoro says, no, we don't. And Luffy says, of course, it's Kaido. I'm going to beat the shit out of that guy. And Zoro says, Luffy, Kinemon said we should not let people know those kind of things. We shouldn't say those type of things while we're here. And then Luffy goes, never mind, I have no idea. Who? So we're having the fun little banter back and forth. We get the Zoro-Luffy combination once again. Great to see it. Really happy to see these two in action. Not separate entities anymore, but actually together. Really, really cool. Now, Hawkins, doing his tarot card thing, draws in 1 month, all of you will be alive is 19%. Who's he talking about? This is left up for a lot of ambiguity. All of you, as in the 4 right there. I mean, he's clearly not talking about, because we see people actually do die in this fight scene. Some of Hawkins' subordinates do die. So he can't be talking about everyone in this area. Is he talking about the Straw Hats specifically? All of them. Is he talking about just Zoro and Luffy? Is he talking about Zoro, Luffy, Tama, and the Lion Dog thing? We don't know, and it's left ambiguous. Also, 1 month from now, the chance that they'll all be alive is 19%. This seems quite odd to me, but this is Hawkins' thing. This is what he does. He's always drawing cards like this. So, and his cards can be proven wrong, right? And he also said no matter how many times he draws it, he cannot make Straw Hat Luffy's life expectancy, no chance of winning or no chance of dying. He cannot make it happen no matter how many times you try. He can make that number super low. Like, the chance that you will die in this battle is 98.5. He cannot make it, I guarantee. He cannot guarantee Luffy's death in any way, shape, or form. So, quite interesting to see the tarot card thing back. A lot of people are delving really deep into that stuff. Me, not so much. I think it's just a fun little gimmick with Hawkins because it sets up a lot of people's theories and stuff, and that's always fun in the YouTube community. Now, the rest of this chapter, once we get past that little 19%, what I said in the last review about will Zoro recognize Nidai Kitetsu, and he does. He doesn't actually think it's, or know that it's Nidai Kitetsu, I don't believe, but he does realize that is, he can feel the aura from that sword. Same with his own Kitetsu. He can realize, he recognizes, he goes, hey Luffy, where did you get that sword, by the way? He goes, oh, this thing, it's a named sword, ain't it great? So, Luffy admits it's a named sword. Zoro says, well, I know that. I can tell, by the sword. But why don't you just give it to me for a second? I want to try it. And he's just kind of like, no, I don't want to. And he throws the sheath at at Hawkins' subordinates there. And he's like, oh, come on, you dumbass. I just want to take a look at it. And by the way, you don't even use the sword anyway. Just give it to me. And Luffy's being stubborn. He's like, no. I shall use this sword with no pistol. So he's holding the sword in his fist, and he's still punching people while holding the sword. So he's Luffy. He's Luffy. I really enjoyed this little exchange. I thought it was quite funny. Because all Zoro was like, that sword seems kind of important. Can I see it for a second? And then maybe then he'll realize it's Nidai Kitetsu. But up until this point, Zoro did recognize it right away, so that's pretty cool. This is where, they start doing a bit of fighting. The lizard mount starts to attack Luffy, and Luffy tries his best, he's like, well, even the lizard's attacking me, sort of deal. And this is where Hawkins brings out his straw sword and just boom and stabs the lizard with it, sort of thing, like just all over the place. And then Luffy, why did he have to do that to the poor lizard? Like, what the hell is that thing? And he's like, it's, my straw sword sort of idea. This is where, after he talks about the straw, sword sort of idea, this is where Zoro's like, okay, I've had enough of this, and he just and slashes right into Hawkins, and we think, okay, Hawkins has just been basically carved in half. But then we see, of course, his subordinate replaced it, and this is where we talk about what I said at the beginning of the video, where his little straw voodoo dolls he takes his subordinate's life into him, and they are part of his devil fruit power. And when he receives mortal damage, or he says any damage, but I believe it's supposed to be mortal damage. When he receives mortal damage, he can, substitute someone else's life to take the blow for him. So as we see, this guy died, this guy took the hit, and Hawkins is totally fine. Very kind of OP ability, but he does say, life -1. Okay. Then he says, and explains it further, that if I take 10 lives into me, I can die 10 times, sort of idea. That does not necessarily mean that that's his limit. And it doesn't actually state, see, at first, when I read the chapter, I said, okay, finally we get an answer to this. He can clearly take up to 10 lives at the very least. Not necessarily. I believe he totally can, but the way he states it here, once again, revealing your power is a stupid idea. Don't reveal the limitations. If you can only carry 10 lives, tell them it's 1,000. Pull a Gin Ichimaru with Bankai sort of idea. That's the smartest thing in Shonen that I've seen in a long time was Gin Ichimaru years ago, pulling that stunt with his Bankai in Bleach. I can see Hawkins being that type of person with this ability, or Law, or someone like that who's got a little more brain power than some of the other supernovas and people like that. So what I gathered from this is that he must have a limit, but he can clearly have more than one life. Otherwise, he wouldn't seem so confident and cocky about, because Zoro just managed to blast right through and cut him in half, no problem. But he didn't really care, life -1. I'm under the impression this definitely means that he can have multiple lives, and I believe someone corrected me the other day that he actually took down, when he was fighting Kizaru, took more than one life from him, so clearly he didn't have only the limit of 1. I apologize for that, guys. It's been a long time since I read that arc. But that is clearly a thing. But he says up to 10. So right now we can surmise that he's got at least 10 lives in him. And but what's the range for that, too? I'm curious about that. Like, if his subordinate is in, is in the East Blue right now, and then he's got that person's life inside of him, can he still, is there a range to this? I would believe there would have to be a range of some sort. So if they get rid of all the subordinates around Hawkins, does that defeat his range, even if he had more lives in him? Will the voodoo doll still take the blow for him? Hard to say, don't really know, but either way, very interesting to kind of get a little more information, or at least a little bit of a recap on how his devil fruit works, because as I said, it's been a long time since I read that arc, and I didn't fully remember about the fact that Kizaru took more than one life, whatever. That might have been anime only. As I said, I didn't even have time to check, guys, so I'm not 100%, but I believe he took like 2 or 3 lives in like kind of consecutive blows, so hard to say. Now this is where he pulls out a very Toriko-esque sort of thing here. He pulls out a Toriko, like this crazy-ass big demon, straw monster thing, very reminiscent to me of Toriko-esque level thing with gourmet cell demons. Kind of cool, looks kind of cool, reminds me of Sunny's. It's kind of cool here. And he's managed to manifest this thing out of his devil fruit, and that's kind of creepy. Now he starts drawing cards. Now he draws a card and he explains about risk and the greater risks he takes. So he drew a card and his subordinate killed another one of his subordinates. And Zoro and Luffy are going, what is going on here? What the hell is he doing? Then we realize that Thomas Fever is getting hired, so the lion dog grabs both him and Zoro in pieces. Now this is where he draws the Hierophant upside down, which means, retribution and stuff, and the straw demon chases them. So we're going off a lot of what Hawkins' tarot cards state. So it seems to have some type of reality swaying ability, these tarot cards, because he draws the card that says, like, his guy's going to attack each other, and they do. He says he draws the reverse Hierophant, and it manages to, the straw demon catches up to, the lion dog who ran away. Just all of a sudden, when he drew the card, that's when the lion dog grabbed him and ran away. It's almost a reality altering, not like changing completely, like changing the future, but just more of an influence. It influences the future greatly, depending on what he draws in the immediate facility. Now, I don't know if this is, once again, range, limitations on this. It's all just like Oda to do. We don't get a full explanation of all of these powers. We don't get full, long, drawn-out explanations of here's his limitations, here's what he can and can't do with them, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of mystery around a lot of these characters and their devil fruit abilities to this day, and that's what leaves it open to interpretation, which is really, really great in this series. So I really like that Oda doesn't just give us all the answers right away. Hawkins' abilities are still got a lot of mystery around them. Now Zoro manages to defeat this crazy straw demon going after them with one of his classic sword strike things that is way too long for me to pronounce in English. But he manages to cut the arm off of this straw demon thing that's following, this Toriko-looking thing. But when I said it was a Toriko thing, there was one key difference between that and one of the gourmet cell demons, is that this is more reminiscent of Saijin's Bankai from Bleach, once again. And the fact that it's a giant manifestation warrior, and Hawkins seems to both be able to control it, because when Hawkins slashes down, the big version of the straw demon slashes down, and when Zoro cut the demon's arm off, Hawkins took the blow, but of course the voodoo thing took, so now he's down to 8 lives, assuming that he does have a full 10 or more. So he took another life off of Hawkins. So that being said, that's really interesting, really. There seems to be a lot of, this to me was very, very, when I first saw it, as I said, appearance-wise, very Sunny Gourmet Cell Demon. But ability-wise, this thing is almost point for point exactly like Saijin's Bankai, his original Bankai in Bleach. So, kind of like to see that, but I saw it right away, and I thought, you know what, they're just combining two of my favorite series into one guy, so that's kind of cool. It gives me a little more liking Hawkins and stuff like that, because it's reminiscent of some characters I enjoyed. Now, instead of pursuing them, Hawkins draws the Hierophant again, but this time it's face up, and he said there's no point in trying to chase them because they're going to receive, it's a support card, they're going to receive aid, there's just no way. And he did state that he does not actually want to fight against two of the worst generation, two of the supernovas, by himself, one-on-one, in an honest one-on-one fight. He knows, or two-on-one fight, he knows he'll lose. He states that. So he's, playing by the cards, trying to, heart of the cards guide me. This is where we see the person who's the chapter title is after, Suru. Suru, I guess, is the woman that Zoro had just saved, and she was hiding on the back of the lion dog's tail or something like that. And so they start talking, oh, is that Tama? Fever, drank the poison water. Oh, there's not a doctor nearby, but take her to my tea house. We have a herbal version of the tea that will flush out the poison from her system, and it's much, much closer. Don't worry about it. So they're just like, yeah, okay, well, you want to help us? That's great. We'll go do that. We jump over to clearly where this tea house is, and we see it's this very, this sumo wrestler guy who's clearly working for Kaido or the Shogun. I'm the #1 sumo wrestler. Oh, I don't want to eat your food. I want you, young girl, and stuff. And this is someone as I'm sure a lot of people are saying, that Sanji's going to go gaga over if he ever shows up in this vicinity with these characters. This is the girl. This girl, what's her name? Sakura, something like that? I'm not 100% sure there. But either way, Suru and Luffy, Zoro, Tama, they all arrive and quickly get her out of this type of situation. And she drank the poison water, we have to help her, so something. And the young girl clearly also knows Tama, and they're like, oh no, quickly, bring her inside. So they have found help for Tama. And I am glad for that, because though I enjoy, the way this arc has started, I didn't want this whole fever thing to last 5, 6, 7 chapters. I really didn't. I didn't want this to be a whole trying to find people, unless it was going to be there's Chopper, now you can help. Oh, there's Robin. Oh, there's Nami, and slowly gather parts of the crew back together again. unless it was going to do that, then I wasn't a huge fan. And that would get boring too. It's like he just so happens while he's running away with this girl trying to find a doctor, he just happens to find Zorro, happens to fight against Hawkins, happens to find, 3 or 4 more Straw Hats. It just wouldn't make as much sense. So I like that this fever thing is going to be over very soon. Assuming they found this tea house, assuming the tea works and stuff, she'll be fine. She may or may not travel with them. Hard to say, but I'm just glad that it's not a race against time sort of idea. Because Zorro and Luffy would not have run away from that battle with Hawkins, given the proper opportunity. The only reason they did was, of course, Thomas' fever was getting worse and they needed to go. The last part of the... this confused me at first because at the very end here, the end page of the chapter, we see some onlookers. And who is it? Well, it's the Law Pirates. It's the Heart Pirates. It's Beppo and a couple of subordinates of Law. Now, I was very confused when I saw this because it said another one of the worst generation appears. And I went, wait a minute. I thought the worst generation meant the 11 supernovas plus Blackbeard. So then I had to go and check that, just so I didn't sound like a total, noob when it came to One Piece knowledge. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's correct. And it is correct. I went, I'm pretty sure Beppo is not. I'm pretty sure he has one of the lowest bounties next to Chopper. So there's no way he's one of the worst generation. Then I looked more closely at it, and it was question mark, one of the worst generation appears, question mark, and exclamation point. It's highlighting that if Beppo's here, Law must be here on Wano as well. Law must be around. So that is what it's implying, is that if Beppo's here, then Law is here. That's what I'm gathering from it. Either way, really cool because that means we're going to see more Law and a lot of people. Law is one of the fan favorite characters. Definitely one of the top supernovas that everyone loves to see. So clearly we're not done with Law quite yet. We're going to introduce Law back into the story sooner rather than later by the looks of this. Really excited for that. Either way, guys, what did you think of Chapter 913? I thought that the battle with Hawkins was good. We got some displays of power, but we can clearly see that Zorro can dominate if it came to a one-on-one fight. There's just no question. And Luffy wasn't even trying. He didn't even try to hit Hawkins really once. They're just worried about the little girl and stuff like that. So clearly Hawkins has not, maybe Hawkins hasn't showcased his full abilities yet, but as he clearly states himself, I have no intention of trying to fight you both at once. It's just not going to happen. So really great to see that. And now we're going to be jumping into a lot of more great things. 914 can't come soon enough. Really, really excited to see 914. So what did you guys think of the chapter? What did you think of the review? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Please like, subscribe, and comment as always. It's always very much appreciated, guys. This has been Griever with your One Piece Chapter 913 review of Behind the Bar. As always, drink responsibly, and we'll see you back here next time for Chapter 914. Finally caught up, guys. So see you next time. Bye.